Hello, my English learners. Welcome. I am so happy to have you here today. Whether you are listening while walking, driving, cooking, or just relaxing, I want to say thank you for joining me in this podcast. It means a lot to me and I am excited to help you on your English learning journey. In today's episode, we are going to talk about something that many English learners struggle with understanding native speakers. I know it can be though, especially when native speakers talk too quickly, use long, or speak in way that can be confusing. You might be asking yourself, why is it so hard for me to understand English speakers? Or how do I keep up with their conversation? Don't worry, my friends, you are not alone. Many learners feel the same way. But there is the good news for you. You can definitely improve your ability to understand native speakers. And in today's episode, I am going to help you step by step. We shall break everything down and I shall share some powerful tips that will make it easier for you to understand native speakers and to feel more confident in English speaking, English learning, English listening skills. So let's begin. First, let's talk about my understanding. Native speakers can be difficult, you might think that just knowing the vocabulary and grammar rules is enough. But that is not the whole story. Understanding spoken English, especially from native speakers, is different because of things like speed, accent, and slang. Connected speech, don't worry. If those words sound confusing right now, we are going to talk about all of them. Why is it so hard to understand native speakers? Have you ever had a conversation with a native English speaker and felt completely you lost? Might have caught a few words here. That's there is the rest of it seem like a blur. This is a very common experience for English learners. It happens for a few reasons. First, native speakers often speak quickly and they don't allow pronounce words clearly. They might blend words together, drop sound, and use contractions like I am instead of I am, which can make it hard to understand. For example, when a native speaker says going to instead of going to want to instead of what, it sounds different from what you might have learned in textbooks during lesson. Second, accents and dialects can make it more challenging to understand different English speakers. English is spoken all around the world Every region has its own way to speak, whether it is the American accent, the British accent, Australian accent, or any other. Each has its own unique words and sounds. Rhythm. When you are listening to someone with an accent that is different from what you used, it can feel like they are speaking a different language even though it is still English. Another reason why understand native speakers too is that they often use slang and informal language. Words, phrases are common in everyday conversation, but they are not usually taught in traditional English classes. For example, if someone says, "What's up?" they are not asking for your opinion on the weather, they are just saying hello or how are you. Understanding these casually expressions is essential if you want to keep up the native speakers. Lastly, there is something called connected speech. This is when words are pronunciated together so closely that is hard to separate them. For instance, when a native speaker says, "I'm going to go," the words are like together, and it might sound like "I'm going to." Instant saying each word separately, if you are not familiar with this, it can make listening so fast speech challenging. But don't worry, all these things are normal. Native speakers do not always speak perfectly. With some practice, you are be able to understand them more clearly. It takes time, but it is completely possible. In today's episode, we are going to go over some practical tips and techniques to help you improve. Tip 1: listen to real conversation. One of the best way to get better understanding native speakers. Listen to real conversations. This means listening to people speaking naturally, not just recording of slow and scripted speech. Why? Because native speakers don't speak like textbook recording. They speak quickly, use slang, and connect their words together in the way that might be new to you. How can you do this? Start by listening to podcasts or YouTube videos in English. Choose topic the interest you have. Whether it is about sports, even cooking. The more you listen to naturally conversation, the better you will get the understanding how native speaker talks. Here is a tip: don't focus too much on understanding every single word. Instead, try to understand the general meaning of conversation. The goal is get used to the speed and rhythm of natural speech. If you don't understand a word, that's okay. Just keep listening and trying. To catch main idea also, don't feel be afraid and rewind and listen again. It's completely normal to need hear something more than once. Over time your brain will start to get used to sound and patterns of English speak. You shall begin to understand more tips. To pay attention to accents, as I mentioned earlier, there are many different English accents, and each one has its own unique pronunciation and rhythm. The way people speak in London sound different from the way people speak in New York and Sydney. If you are struggling to understand a particular accent, it is important to practice with that specific accent. If you know you shall be speaking with people from a particular region like United States and UK, try to focus on listening to accent more English. You could watch TV shows, movies that feature characters from the region. You could listen to podcasts that have speakers from that area. The most exposure you get to particular accent, the easier it will be understand it and remember it. If you can't understand everything right away, it takes time, and the more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Tips 3: focus on keywords. When native speakers talk, they often speak quickly, but don't worry. If you miss a few words here, there the key to understand to focus on the important word in a sentence. Native speakers often leave out small words like isar, or they may shorten them in casual speech. These small words are important for grammar, but they don't always often the overall meaning of what being said. Instead of stressing about understanding every word, try to focus on the keywords that carry the meaning. These are usually the nouns, names of things, or people, verbs, action verbs, action words, adjectives, describing words. For example, if someone says, I am going to the store to buy some groceries, you don't need to understand or some, just focus on store buy and groceries. That will help you get the main idea. You can practice this by listening to a conversation, trying to pick out the most important word, then try to summarize what the conversation was about in your mind and words. This technique will help you improve your understanding of native speakers, especially when they speak fast. Use unfamiliar vocabulary. Tips for you. Use subtitles. If you are watching movies, TV shows, or YouTube videos, use subtitle to help you understand what is being said. Subtitles are especially helpful because they allow to see the words as you hear them, which helps you match spoke words with written text. Is this a great way to improve both your listening and reading skill? Here is a helpful strategy. Start with subtitles in your native language. If you need extra help, once you feel comfortable, switch to English subtitle. This will allow to see the exact words being spoken in English, and it will help you to get out how to words are pronunciation. Eventually, you can challenge yourself by watching without subtitles. At all, this will help you focus more on listening and understanding the spoken words without any distractions. One thing you might remember is that all subtitles are perfectly some things. They don't match exactly what the speakers are saying, especially with language. Don't worry, just keep listening and use the subtitles as a guide, not as a crutch. Over time, you shall start to understand more without needing them. Tip 5. Break the speech into chunks. Where you are listening to a native speaker, it can feel overwhelming because they speak in long sentences without stopping. But the truth is, native speakers tend to break their speech into small chunks. This is especially true in conversation, where speakers often pause between idea phases. To improve your understanding, practice by breaking the speech into chunks. When you listen to a sentence, try to identify natural pauses. Of example, listening to a sentence like, I went to the store and when I saw my friend, we decided to grab some coffee. There are clear breaks between I went to the store, I saw my friend, and we decided to grab some coffee. These are natural breaks in speech. Out can make it easier for you to understand. You can practice by listening a short conversation, pausing it after each chunk. Try to understand the meaning each part before moving on the next one. This will help you process in information smaller pieces, making it easier to understand – fast speech. Tip 6. Shadowing. Now let's talk about a technique called shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speakers repeat what they say immediately, trying to match their speed rhythm pronunciation as closely as possible. It's like you are their shadow copying their words. This is a powerful technique because it trains both your ears and mouth. By listening to and repeating the sentence you hear, you shall become more familiar with how native speakers speak. You shall always improve your pronunciation rhythm, innocence, which are all important to understand spoken English. To get started with shadowing, choose a short video or a audio clip that features natural speech, listening to a sentence or two, then pause and repeat exactly what they heard. Try to copy the way speaker says each word, paying attention to their tone and how they stress certain words. This will help you sound more naturally, make it easier to understand other speakers who talk the same way. Don't worry. If you can't keep up it, first shadowing, take practice, and it's okay. If you don't get everything right the first time, keeping practice, over time your understanding of native speakers will improve. Tips and 7: practice listening to different accent. As I mentioned earlier, accent can make harder to understand native speakers, but this does not mean you should avoid them. In fact, the more you expose yourself to different accents, the better we shall became at understanding a variety of English speakers. Start by listening to a range of accents from different regions, different countries. You could listen to British, American, Australian, even African English accent. Each accent has its own unique sound. Way to pronunciating words by practicing with different accent. You shall train your mind and understand English in variety of ways. If you are not sure where to start, you could try watching TV shows, movies from different countries. For example, you could watch a British movie, then an American one, then Australian one. Listen carefully how characters speak and try to notice any differences in their pronunciation. Over time, you shall find it easier to understanding people from different parts of the world. Tips 8: slow down the speed. If you are struggling you to keep up the speed of native speakers, there is no harms in slow things down a bit. Many podcast, YouTube videos, audios, books Allow you to understand the speed of the audio. Start by listening the content at slower speed. As you get more comfortable, gradually increase the speed by slowing things down. You shall be able to catch more words, understand their speaker's tone, rhythm more clearly. Once you feel confident at a slower pace, challenging yourself by increasing the speed just a little bit at a time. This gradually process will help you keep up with faster native speakers in the future tips. 9. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. Finally, remember, it's okay to ask for clarification. If you don't understand something, native speakers are usually very understanding. Will be happy to repeat them. They said, explain it in different way. Don't be embarrassed. If you don't understand, everyone has been there. If you are in a conversation, you don't catch something, just say sorry, good. You say that again. I don't quite understand. Could you explain it differently? Repeat. I am repeating here. Guys, I don't ask sorry. I could repeat it. I didn't quite understand. Could you explain it differently? Most people will appear that you are trying to improve your English and they shall be happy to help. Tips 10. Use context clues. One of the best way to understand native speakers use to context clues. When you are listening the situation, the topic and even the body language of speakers can give you a lot of information about what is being said. Something. If you don't understand a specific word or phrase, try to figure it out based on your overall meaning of conversation. For example, if you are in a conversation about food or someone say something like, I am going to grab a bite. Even if you are not sure that exact meaning of bite, you can guess from the context. They are talking about eating. The little hint in the conversation that you help fill in gap when you don't understand every words. This technique words in a lot of situation, not just with food or daily life topic. For an example, if you are listening to a story and someone says the car broke down and we had to call for a tow, you can guess the tow means help with getting the car to be repaired. Shop. Even if you don't know the exact definition of the word, over time, your brain will become better picking up all these clues, and it will make understanding native speakers much easier. Tip 11. Be patient, my guys. Be patient, my friends. Put patience, my dear friends, my listeners. Yourself, it is important to be patient with yourself when it comes to understand native speakers language. Learning is a process. It takes time to adjust different speeds, accent, speech patterns. It's completely normal to feel like you are not understanding everything right away. But don't let the discourage you. Remember, fluency does not overnight. Something you listen a native speakers, you are making process, a progress.